Why don't we go ahead and get started in the interest of time? We're at about 45 people on. Thank you all very, very much. My name is Todd Lewis. Most of you probably know who I am. But if not, I'm with the All Things Open team. I created All Things Open going on 8 years ago. I've been in the open source space for 13, 14, 15 years. I've been in technology for right at 20 now. It's hard to say that. It's really difficult to believe that I've been doing this for as long as I have. It's flown by, and even saying it just doesn't sound right. You know, I used to be the youngest person in the room, and I sort of woke up, and now I'm one of the older people in the room. So that'll happen to everybody I know, but it certainly happened to me. So we really do appreciate you joining us. This is obviously a meetup. We do these at least every month, every 1 to 2 months. For July, we did 2. We took the month of June off to prepare for All Things Open and everything like that. So we came back for the month of July, and we've actually done 2. So we did one 2 weeks ago, and Vicki Brasher joined us. Some of you were on that meetup and participated in that meetup. She delivered a really great talk. I just posted a link out to that recorded talk, to her talk from 2 weeks ago, if you're interested. She did a really great job. The topic of her talk was how to open source an internal project, a topic that we really loved because it's something that a lot of people are facing and trying to do. Maybe you work at a company. Again, you want to recruit talent. You want to identify talent, people that are interested in what you've got going on. So open sourcing something is a strategy that you deploy and utilize. Well, how do you do it effectively? That's what her talk was about. I encourage you to go watch that talk from 2 weeks ago. She really did a great job. Obviously, the topic today is Spark 3. And Gene Georges is an amazing speaker. He's an amazing author. He's just an overall good person. He's a good human being. Gene Georges, you've spoken for us on numerous occasions. You've traveled to do it. You've come to Columbia to do it. You're just, not only are you a really solid professional, you know what you're doing. You've been at this a while, but you're just a good human being, and you're just a good person. And those of anyone watching this that is familiar with All Things Open and our team, they know that that's really important to us, and many times that's far more important than the content itself. It's what kind of person are you? Do you want to help others learn? Do you want to enable education and help others along the way? You've always done that. You've always been more than willing to do that. So you're a good person, and I really appreciate you being with us today. So here's what I'm going to do. Before we get started, I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to do this. I just want to do something really, really quick. Okay, so I'm sharing. I do want to thank our sponsors today for everybody that's joining. Ivan.io is helping to make this possible. Again, those of you familiar with this, some of you are not. Most of you probably are. I never hesitate to thank sponsors. They're the ones that make this possible. And I just never hesitate to give them credit for helping us along the way. These are great companies. They do great jobs. They're just good people. We really try to partner with good human beings and people that deeply care about other humans, frankly. And again, Ivan is certainly one of those companies. Mattermost, another one of those companies, messaging, a really, really good team. They've always been very nice to us. They're, again, professionals, good people. And again, the speakers have always done a great job for us, and they run the company really, really well. IBM, if we were doing this meetup in person, it would be hosted in the Research Triangle Park in Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina. And IBM has a big development center there. We would be doing this meetup on campus in their software development center at IBM. And I know Sadev is on this call, and Sadev makes that space available. So we would otherwise be using IBM space. Obviously, with it being virtual, we're not doing that, but we otherwise would. And I just want to thank IBM for being such a good host normally, under normal circumstances, and also for just being such a good partner with ATO. You're a longtime partner, and we truly appreciate that as well. Plus, you run a great company, and your commitment to open source is pretty solid and has been for a long period of time. So thank you, Sadev. I also want to remind you that the All Things Open conference, registration is open right now. For that, it opened up about 2 weeks ago. This is the annual conference that we do in Raleigh. Obviously, it's virtual this year due to COVID. We want to keep everybody safe. And we want to come back strong in 2021. But it is a virtual event. And as you can see, we expect about 10,000 people to join us from all over the world. Nearly every major company in the world will be there participating, hosting talks, delivering talks, engaging in networking activities and events and things like that. So we encourage you to register for that event as well. And Jean Georges, I want you to promote your book, but I did want to show everybody the book that we're giving away today. It is Spark in Action. It is the second edition version. And you've signed, I think, 4 copies. And by the way, just to clarify, what we're giving away, they are hard copies. They're not digital copies or ebook copies. And I think, Jean Georges, you're going to show everybody a copy there. I think you've got multiple copies there with you. Hold that up. They're very, very good. So here's how we're going to do that too, is after Jean Georges delivers the talk, I'm going to post a link in the chat stream, and you can just indicate your interest. Just click on the link and indicate your interest in receiving a book. We're also going to give away a few hats. We do this at every one of our meetups. I'm wearing the hat. That's actually why I'm wearing a hat. If my mom were on this call, she'd be very disappointed in me. Let me do this. Sorry about that. I had a call that just came in. She'd be disappointed because she would say, Todd, stop wearing a hat on a call. They can't see your eyes. Well, the reason I am is because it's our hat, and this is the hat that we're actually giving away. And then also we're giving away this. I'm wearing an All Things Open t-shirt as well. So we'll give away a few shirts and a hat and hats and then books as well. So I'll post the link. It's just a link out to Wufoo Forum. Indicate your interest in a hat, a shirt, or the book. And then we'll get back in touch with people quickly, and then we'll ship those out to you free of charge. Everything is free. There is no hidden sales strategy or anything like that here. Can't give books and hats and things out to everybody, but we will to as many people as possible for sure. So, okay. With all of that said, I want to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay, so let's see, we're about 65 people or so on the call. So thank you all for joining. We really, really appreciate that. Jean Georges, I've got 12:09. So we've been doing this for about 9 minutes or so. So my goal was to turn it over to you by 12:10. You're the reason that everyone is here. And you sort of know how this works. So with that, I'm going to bring it down. And if you want to share your screen and bring it up, we will get started. So thanks again to everyone for joining, and I'll see you back once we wrap up the talk. And I think we're going to do what, Jean Georges, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of Q&A.
That was my goal.
Okay.
I'm always, we'll adjust depending
Very good.
on time.
The final thing that I'll say, so sorry, I should have said this earlier. If you have a question, indicate your question or pose your question in the chat stream, or we have enabled the Q&A function. So along the bottom of your Zoom window, you should see Q&A. And then feel free to pose a question that you want Jean Georges to see or to answer via Q&A or the chat stream. And if you see the raise your hand function, we might recognize you if we have time, enable your audio and allow you to pose a question verbally live. So those are the 3 ways that we'll take questions. And Jean Georges, I know as you're delivering a presentation, it's sort of hard to monitor the Q&A stream. But if you want to save questions until after you wrap up the presentation, you're welcome to do it. Handle it however you like.
So thanks, Todd. I'm really honored to be part of this open source initiative you've been doing. I think we've kind of worked-ish together for like 4 or 5 years now, and I'm always amazed. The first time I heard about All Things Open, I could not attend, and then I didn't miss any after that. And it's a wonderful conference. I'm so sorry that we don't meet in person this year, but I also completely understand, and really it would be just crazy to have 5,000 people just discussing about their passion in open source in Raleigh. But that's in a nutshell my take on the conference. So I'm here to speak about Apache Spark, and specifically version 3. It's been released in June, not that long ago, and it's a major release in this ecosystem. And we'll go into that. So first, I'd like to take a few minutes just to introduce myself. So my name is Jean-Georges Perrin. So yeah, I've got this kind of very funky French name. I'm actually French, and in the US, most of the people call me JG because they don't want to suffer pronouncing my name, and it's totally okay. Um, I'd like to say that I started software when I was 12 in 1983. My first big project, big data project, was in 1984, and that I started doing AI in 1994. And that's all that is actually true. Uh, but the time is when I actually started making money about with that. That was a little bit after that, and I'm really passionate about software engineering, big data, and data in general. It doesn't have to be big, and AI more and more. Um, Recently, we started a group called La French Tech in Raleigh Research Triangle. Um, it's La French Tech is really about promoting French technology um, in the US and promoting US technologies in France. It's creating this hub. We're 100 different hubs now in La French Tech, so that's kind of a fun group to be in. One of my proudest achievement is to be an IBM champion. So I will concur with Todd saying that IBM rocks and has been always great for helping open source. And I've been champion for 12 years now. I've been one of the longest standing IBM champion, I think. So my Twitter handle is JG Perrin. That's my preferred way of interacting with people. I run a blog at jgp.ai. And actually, what pays the bills is I'm a senior solution architect for Advanced Auto Parts. I hope that after this call, for all the people living in the US and in Canada, please go buy your auto parts, your windshield wipers, and everything at Advance, because this is a great company to work for. I'm really excited about that and what we've got in plans, and I'll tell you more about that soon. That's my book, Spark in Action, the second edition. We did that. It took me 3 years to do it. I think it's a um, it's a very interesting book. The feedback is awesome. It's humbling. First, it's humbling that people trust your book just because it's there and they just want to buy it, and it's even more humbling to see reviews after. So having said that, that's enough. I don't want to spend time just promoting myself or anything like that. Okay, so let's get started. So first, I'll start by a little bit of comeback, okay, to what is big data, because Spark is known to be something about around big data space, right? So big data is about 3 V's or 5 V's or 4 V's, depending on whose definition that you listen. Okay, so volume, variety, velocity, variability, and values there. So it's different kind of data. It's a lot of data, and it's really it's really this definition. I think it's a bit technical. For me, I've simplified this definition, and I actually borrowed that from someone. I think that data is considered big when it needs more than one computer to be processed. And that's really where it stands. It's because if you need more than one computer, then you're being distributed, right? Your workloads are being distributed. And more than that, I think that Spark, when you look at it, it's not even it's really an operating system, and it's an analytics operating system. And I've been doing Spark since 2015, so kind of a little bit late in the game compared to its release in 2010. And in 2016, I was attending World of Watson, and here's my friend Rob Thomas on stage, the guy with the dark suit that actually wrote the foreword of my book. And I really had a shock, about trying to. He was describing Spark as an analytics operating system, but then you can actually wonder what an analytics operating system is, right? So here is a bit of a definition. I'm sorry for the animation that doesn't go very well through teleconference, but when you're building an application, you are building an application based on hardware. Your operating system is actually your operating system is actually shielding you from having your application to write everything back to the hardware. Okay, so as I said, when you're writing an application, you're not going to write an Ethernet driver. Okay, you rely on what the system is providing to you. You're not going to write a new window interface because this is what the operating system is giving you. So, sorry. When you look at distributed computing, you've got an hardware layer on top of which you've got the operating system. Okay, so if you want to have distributed apps there, well, you will have your apps to handle this thing. Okay, you've got your applications to handle the multitude of computers underneath. Okay, so if you do that, it means that you've got to have your distributed layer to directly in the application and not outside of the application. So that makes your app bigger. And same thing if you want to do analytics applications, then you've got to do that in the application itself. So I think that there was a room for another paradigm here. Okay, so you still have your hardware operating system, but instead of that, you can actually have your distributed operating system on top of that and your analytics operating system on top of that, which means that when you're writing your apps, they are smaller by nature, and they can actually leverage all what the operating system is offering to you. Okay, so that's my understanding on the vision from Rob and IBM that I took from me. And this is what really is Spark. Okay, Spark is really both these layers of this analytics and distributing operating system. So, and it's really an operating system as you are not you're not forced to use a dedicated language to actually be able to do anything with it. Okay, so you can use Java, you can use R, you can use Scala, and you can use Python. And I would say that it's probably a good thing to use Java and Python. Okay. Before we dig a little bit more, I just want to go back and to illustrate the context in which we're evolving. Okay, so you've got data engineers and data scientists. For me, the engineer is really about the person that is building the application, that is making the data rock solid, that is delivering the data so that data scientists can start working on it. Okay, so when you're talking about a data pipeline, about data quality, eventually about data governance, that's for me on the engineering side of the world. When you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to find insights in your data, find the real value in your data. When I'm trying to build some predictive models and reuse and find the right parameters and right hyperparameters for your predictive models, this is where the data scientist is coming in the game. And yeah, so the border is not as strict, okay? It's not like there's a Berlin Wall between the two. It's I know a lot of data scientists which are actually doing data engineering work, and I know a lot of data engineers which are involved in some kind of data science activities as well. So, but it's a bit of a different paradigm, and the expectation from both are different. And why I'm saying that is because I think that the tools that both the data engineer and the data scientist are using are kind of different, okay? And so when you think about the data engineer, it's more like, hey, I've got this database, whether it's relational or not. I've got this pipeline, this cache, this code in GitHub that is available there, and I've got that's the tools I'm going to use for making my data available. On the data scientist, you're more into the experiment, okay, and you're more into also the storytelling. So that's why you would use things like IBM Watson Studio or SAS or SPSS or tools like Jupyter and Zeppelin, which are notebooks. And you see here as well the two icons of PowerPoint and Excel. I didn't put the new icons. I don't like them really, so I put the old ones. But the I because you are going at some point to present some results, and PowerPoint is actually a great way to present some results. So, and you see in the middle the common tools that both the data engineers and the data scientists are using. Okay, and the biggest one is Apache Spark. Okay, so Apache Spark is great because as an operating system, it's versatile and it can be used in both sides. And then both sides can use SQL, use Python, use Scala, and I wish they would use Java a little bit more. But I know that it's mostly a data engineering tool. So that's to define the context. 2020 is also a big year because it is the 10th anniversary or the 10th birthday even of Apache Spark. So it's been around for 10 years. Okay, so the founder, the creator of Spark, and the co-founder of Databricks, which is one of the company behind Spark, Matei Zaria, started that in 2010 as he was doing his PhD, and he didn't like what he was saying, so he invented Spark. So that's a pretty amazing journey. 10 years and version 3 now. So if we look at where it is as of now, not from a perspective of not a perspective specifically on version 3, but as if we just take a picture of where we are now. So when we look at notebooks, it's really dominated by the use of Python. Okay, you could use other things in notebooks before, or Scala, and even some notebooks are running Java. But the thing is, it's really clearly a Python world when it comes to notebook. Okay, so that's interesting to know, because it means that if your Python skills are a little bit on the low side, like mine, it's a great time to polish them up. And that's notebooks, which means mainly used by data scientists. Okay. When you look at a bit more figures, okay, so I stole a few figures from Databricks, one of the company behind Spark, and they actually they see on their platform more than 5 trillion records per day, and that's a lot of records just through structured streaming. Okay, so structured streaming was introduced in Spark version 2 as an alpha and has been stable since Spark version 2.2. Whatever you're doing with Spark, 90% of the calls of the APIs are being kind of going back to SQL. Okay, so if you're very literate in SQL, Spark is great for that, and I would definitely confirm that SQL is a key player in the Spark space. It's not the only one, okay, but it's definitely there. And also the community has run benchmarks, so it's also amazing to see that over the time Spark being adding more and more features, but the performance is also always being getting better and better, increasing performance over time. And there, the last production version was version 2.4. Now with Spark version 3, some of the TPC benchmarks are actually doubling that. Okay, so that's pretty amazing. So, as the talk is really about what's new in version 3, I wanted to dig, of course, in what's new for version 3. So, it's a huge process. I hope you've got time in front of you, okay? Because if we would just spend 2 minutes on each ticket, on each Jira ticket, we would spend 4 days non-stop talking, more than 4 days non-stop talking, no sleeping, just on every ticket that went into Spark 3. But I borrowed this diagram from Databricks, and it's really, you can see really where the focus was. Okay, so when you look at Spark Core, it's really it's really about optimizing. And when you look at Spark SQL, well, it benefits everyone, as you know, everything is being kind of going down to SQL. Documentation and test. The version 3 has been in test since almost November, so they've really did a great job there. So to make it palatable and to go from these 3,400 Jira tickets to something we could kind of digest in 20 minutes, the exercise has not been easy, and I may have missed some of the key features as well. Okay, so here are a few highlights in a nutshell. So I just looked at Python, SQL, on the core part of Spark. So Python, it's only Python v3. Okay, so Python v2 has been decommissioned, unsupported since January 1st of this year. I know that it's really difficult for a lot of people to get rid of their old Python version 2 code, but now Spark 3 is completely in line with Python v3. I think it's a great move because there was always a bit of confusion: which Python am I going to use? Which one got the more traction? So I think it's much better for all of us to see that. There's a better error handling. So a lot of the time when you were running Python, it ends up, everything it's Scala and Java under the scene when it comes to Spark. So a lot of the errors would come into things like a stack trace, ugly stack trace. So when you're a Java guy, when you're a Python person, you just definitely don't want to see Java exceptions just polluting your output. So that's a better error handling. I think that's great for that. And also koalas. So just a little bit about koalas. If you're a Python data scientist, you will probably use things like NumPy or pandas. So that's the kind of the libraries and tools which are super popular for data scientists. Koalas is the implementation, the almost identical implementation of pandas for Spark. So what it means is if you've got panda code, you can actually run it on Spark with koalas. So koalas are not new, but they've managed to now go up to 80% of their API. So I think that's a great news as well for data scientists. SQL, lot of small details we'll see, but it's also a better ANSI SQL compliance. To be honest, I've been in data for a lot of time, and I've never seen that very exciting, but I think that it is for some people, so I put it here. In terms of core, what is really also very interesting is the optimizer is getting better through adaptive core execution, which enables query pruning and all the stuff. We'll just see a little bit of that. The Java version 11 support was, prior to that it was Java version 8, and also Spark is written in Scala. You don't need to learn Scala to use Spark, okay, that's something for sure, but it's the engine itself is written in Scala, and they unified that on Scala version 2.12, and prior to that there was a bit of, sometimes you had a cross compilation with Scala version 2.11, 2.10, etc. Now it's unified on 2.12, and I think that's also clarifying a lot of things. one of the impact of that is that there is actually no support for Elasticsearch right now. There was a driver that enables Spark to talk really efficiently with Elasticsearch, and this is not supported anymore because Elastic is a little late on their Scala 2.12 version of that driver. And also there is a fantastic feature, mostly for data scientists, is called hydrogen. And the idea of hydrogen is to tell the optimizer and the scheduler what is the kind of hardware and what kind of accelerator is available for your workloads. Okay, so what that means is you can ask Spark. Prior to that, you didn't know if you had a GPU, for example. So if you don't know if you've got a GPU accessible in your cluster, well, it's really annoying when you want to do model training, okay? Because you just send a workload somewhere. It might just go to a machine with no GPU, or you have to have all your machines with GPU, or you've got specific clusters with GPU and not for and some with no GPU as well. So that's that was a little bit unnerving for data scientists, and I think this is something that is this is actually one of my one of my favorite feature. Of course, it also means that when you've got your model, which is trained on the GPU, you can reuse your model on a CPU-only cluster, okay, or in the same cluster because it's aware of it. So I think that's a smart way, and it's actually using a lot of the different optimizers as well. So and that's the history of optimizing optimizers in Spark. The optimizer is called Catalyst. The first version was just rule-based. Second version, IBM contributed their cost optimizer to Catalyst. And now in version 3, it's also the runtime part, which has been a contribution from Databricks and Intel to this open source project. I like to highlight who contributed because I think it's for the greater good. Okay, so when you do open source, I think it's for the greater good. When IBM gave their cost optimizers, they could have kept it for themselves or kept a specific version for themselves, but that's not the philosophy there. So once you've got this third stage of optimization, and I'm sorry if you're new to Spark. This might just sounds like it's weird talking, but basically your data are cut into partitions. Okay, when you've got a cluster, you can imagine that your data is not on one machine, and even in one machine, it can actually be in several partitions. So based on that, this adaptive query execution will allow to repartition, which is basically the idea of coalescing automatically. It can also switch join strategies. Okay, you can int some join strategies, but it's actually switch automatically, and it can also optimize skew joins. So skew is really when you've got data which is hyper fragmented, that is actually penalizing your join. Okay, like imagine like you're joining two tables, because that's very similar to that. You're joining two tables, and all your ID columns are partitioned all over the place. Okay, so that's the idea of regrouping that allows a performance gain. So as I promised code as well, this is how it actually works. Okay, so when I'm doing a join, and here I'm not using SQL, I'm using the data frame API. And the first thing is I am starting a session in the first part here, and as a configuration, I'm actually in the configuration I'm using actually this config line there, where you can specify to use that. Okay, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Um, I've tried it on very small data sets. It did not really improve, but it's really because it was small data sets, um, and that's of course not really helpful. But when you look at bigger data set, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, unfortunately, you cannot activate it for one query or not one query. It's for your entire session. Okay, so that's this config there. And if you look at GitHub, um, you can look in the chapter 12 of the book, and I actually added this new lab here, lab lab 302, that describes a little bit this kind of scenario. Okay. The static functions. So if you're familiar with Spark, you know that a lot of things are actually being done through static functions. A lot of your data transformation goes through static functions. I think that this is one of the greatest thing in Spark, and we are over 300 this function, so it's even getting a little bit difficult to find which one you want or not. They've added something like 30 in Spark 3, and so here's a list. They may sound a little bit cryptic or not of your common use, but that's also because things have, there's a lot of them that are already being done. So they just keep adding them. What we did also with Manning is this guide to static functions. It's a free companion ebook to Spark in Action. So if you go to this URL jgp.ai/SIA and you look at the you look there, you will see the extra resources you can get with the book, and this is a free PDF you can download. It's a work in progress, so things will keep being added to this book. So I think it's a rich complement to your Spark experience. As I said, SQL, for me, SQL has always been some kind of a soup. Okay, you put everything in there, and you just skew it a little bit, and then you get things. There's finally a reference guide. I couldn't believe that they never did a reference guide for Spark SQL. The URL is pretty complex, so that's why I put a short URL here. But it's finally there, similar to what you would find for PostgreSQL, for example. You can also have explain. Okay, so and explain used to be a little bit cryptic and kind of dumping the result, so now it's formatted. For some weird reason, in previous version of Spark, they were using some kind of other calendar, and now they've unified on the Java 8 standard. It might change. It might not change a lot of things for you, except if you're dealing with dates before 1582. So that's not really our common date range, but just worth knowing it. There's overflow check, which that's great because you don't always have the right overflow. The overflow you will have in Python or Java might not be the same as in SQL. So now there's a check for that, and there's also for this enhanced ANSI compatibility. There's a flag which is by default false. One of the thing I really am very sensitive to with Spark, and it's a big part of the book actually, is ingestion of data. Okay, so when you want to get data in your in Spark to be able to be processed, that's called the ingestion process. So pushdown is really the idea of filtering the data before it gets into the system. Okay, of course, when it's in the system, it's easy to filter, and you could just get it out. But that's that's to avoid the workload and the time it takes and the memory it will use. You can push that to the you can push that down to the to the to the ingester itself. Okay, so you could already do that before with SQL, for example. So here I just use a very simple SQL statement, and you can see here that this is where I'm actually ingesting, and I'm using my SQL query here. It's a little bit, I would recognize, it would be okay that the syntax is a little bit cryptic, but this will only import in Spark, in my data frame in Spark, the result of this query. So that was there, but it could not do it before for any ingesters. Okay, so now if you look at CSV, you could do that as well. So here is a first very basic example from chapter 7, where you are importing a book CSV file, and you can see here that without the filter, I would ingest everything. And if I just add the filter line here, you could see that in my data frame, I only have my author ID to 1. Okay, so you're pushing down this filtering, so you don't have to bring everything into Spark. I think that's a very neat feature. So, of course, life is we're going from a version 2 to a version 3. Okay, so yes, there are some migration tips, and yes, they are needed. There are so many of them that there's the link here is a migration guide. You've got to look at it. You really have to look at it. If you're using Spark with a compiled language like Java, it will detect some. Okay, so for example, in structured streaming, there are some exceptions that are being new exceptions that are being raised. So you will have to catch and try them. To try and catch them, sorry, and the same, but some will may be a little bit annoying to you, like parsing dates, for example. There's a new date parser, and there's also the data source itself, the mechanism to ingest data through data sources did not change a lot since version 1 of Spark, and so now the community has decided to work on a version 2 of the data sources, which with great ideas, like for example, it could be the same data sources whether you're using streaming or batch processing, but it's not completely rolled in, I would say, or rolled out for every source of data. So you may experience some difference there as well. Okay, so and of course it's still very young, so there might also be some bug, but it's definitely going in the right direction. One of my annoying experience was that I was actually not expecting, was on simple date parsing, and so you may actually see this error here, Spark upgrade exception, when you're dealing with dates, and it's very easy. So if you want to keep the compatibility with before, you just add this there as a SQL command to your session, or you can directly add the configurations there. So pretty straightforward. So I know we're kind of almost running out of time. I've seen at least one person from French culture, so he will understand what mi figue mi raisin is. I've got mixed bags on that release. It's a major update. Don't get me wrong. It's a very exciting upgrade to Spark. Uh, but I would say it's an update rather than an upgrade. It's a great evolution rather than a revolution. The break is the change between version 1 and version 2 of Spark was stronger. Now I think we're going to more maturity in with things done more with intentions, like this concept of international architecture. I think that's great and that's fantastic. But on the other hand, you could expect more shiny things from the user, and you don't get them. A lot of things are kind of under the hood. But one of the very promising thing is for me is this idea of lake house. So if you get my book today, or if you have it, or if you plan on buying it, there is an appendix. There's a lot of appendices, and I can probably tell you that I'm an opinionated person. I think that comes with the French genes, and I didn't like the way data was going. So in Appendix E, I kind of brushed up a bit of a history of enterprise data. It's only a couple of pages. And it was actually my introduction, or my chapter 1 of the book. And my editor, Manning, said, there's no way we're going to publish that. So we settled that this is actually an appendix. So you will hear me or read me ranting about data lakes, data warehousing, and everything data. But the idea is that actually our friends at Databricks are pushing here is the idea of a lake house. So, and it's this kind of semi-structured idea of data of data lake. Okay, a lot of problem with the data lake is that it's completely a big mess after, and it becomes a data swamp at some point, and nobody knows what's inside, and etc. etc. So it starts to, excuse my French, stink a little bit. You've got, on the other hand, you've got data warehouse where planning and phasing it is not really compatible with being agile, or unless you've got really, really, really good teams. And so there's this balance, and I think that the lakehouse is a bit that. And this is a little bit a diagram I could draft from there, where you see that the data sources can be anything there. Databases, file system, streams, and you've got the processing and the kind of intermediate storage in the middle, which is combined by data lake, but Delta Lake, and the Delta engine. The Delta engine was actually announced very recently, and Apache Spark. So we're really talking about this combination here, where you are combining the processing and storage, and it's really promising for me. What you can also see is that Databricks is adding visualization, and it's a very interesting visualization component with Redash. It's targeted towards business users. Okay, so you can see data engineers using all these outcome of Spark as other databases, file systems, streams, whatever, and you can have data scientists which are using Jupyter and Zeppelin, for example. But the business users are now typically can be used into can be using Redash, and I put that all in red here. But this is really all. This is something that Databricks is pushing, and all those components are open source. So I think that's great for the community. ML flow, quickly, machine learning flow, automate your machine learning process, and TBA is something that I may be able to announce soon. You've got to stay tuned about that. So quickly takeaways. Apache Spark version 3 is a major update. 3400 patches. The foundation now is a rich data ecosystem, okay, or operating system or lakehouse. And also Python is increasingly popular and definitely beats Scala, which makes my day. There's probably a lot of more takeaways based on each of you, but I'm really happy for to take any questions now, and thank you. I'm also running a vlog on Fridays called Data Friday. More on that at this URL. Thank you, and Todd, I've got to give you back. I think if I don't know if you're muted or if you can unmute. Maybe I have to do that because it's.
Yes.
Oh, you are. Yeah, you're back. Great.
Hey,
okay.
How about that?
So,
thank you, Jesus. Okay.
You're very welcome.
Jesus, can you maybe make me the host again?
I can make you the host for sure.
I turn that over to you.
Host. And you are the host.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Let's do this, Ginger. I know you opened it up for questions. So let's take a few questions. How about that? I see a couple in the chat feature or the chat stream. And then I think, Gene Georges, if you want to check the Q&A stream.
Okay, I'll start the Q&A stream. Okay. That's an easy one from Nancy. Yes, this presentation will be recorded. It is recorded, and you can listen to it all over again and again and again. And I'm really happy to talk to you more even about that. If you there's going to be more presentation about that kind of stuff as well. Sorry, Dilip. Dilip is well. Thank you for saying it's a great session. And you were also expected a word or two about Kubernetes report. Yes, my bad. You see, that's a problem with having to pick among these 3,400 new features. Kubernetes. So when you're deploying Spark, there's a lot of different ways you can deploy. You can deploy Spark, and when you think about deploying on a cluster, Kubernetes seems to ring bells to a lot of people. And yes, Kubernetes has been supported since version 2.3. I think it was the alpha, then 2.4, and they really worked a lot of things about Kubernetes, and you will see that more and more SaaS providers of Kubernetes are switching to Kubernetes, because before that you had Yarn from Hadoop, you had Mesos, Sparklam, with its own resource manager. But Kubernetes definitely is the way to go when you go to production. And there's I think that Google is already switching, or has already switched to for GCP. I don't know about IBM on their offering. I know that EMR from Amazon is late in the game. They're still way back. I don't know about Azure. There's also another company called Data Mechanics, which is providing Spark on any cloud platform you want, and they are using Kubernetes on your cluster using EKS or whatever Kubernetes support you want. So yes, Kubernetes definitely. Do you have any plan to make this book available in Safari as well? So I think that Safari, if my understanding is correct, Safari is really an O'Reilly product, and the publisher of Spark in Action is Manning, and they are not really friends. So I saw that some of the books are in Safari. I don't know at all about this one being available in Safari. I'm really sorry. Can you talk about improvement in memory optimization in Spark 3? Arvind, I would love to. I think this would take a little bit of this would be taking a lot of time. They did a things. I didn't read a lot of different things specifically on the memory and that. There was a lot of improvement in 2. with tungsten. I don't know if tungsten has been improved. I must bail on you, Arvin, for this one. And so Arvin, another one. Why Python is gaining more popularity than Scala, since Scala is JVM based and more efficient, and compile time, safety, and testing is easier in Scala than Python. Yeah, maybe, but I hate Scala. Okay, I hate it. All my guts. I don't think it should exist. I think it's just a mistake of Mother Nature. Okay, Okay, so there's no way I'm going to say anything nice about Scala. So that's sorry, Aravind. That's your answer. With hydrogen, will the ML training work in a distributed manner or on GPUs? Also, I'm assuming hydrogen is limited to Spark ML. No, so Spark is, well, I don't know if it's only limited to ML. That's for a question from Piyush. I don't know if hydrogen is limited to MLlib. I don't think so. I would not bet a life on it, but I don't think it is limited to MLlib. But the idea is, yes, you can distribute your workload on GPUs through that. Okay, so you specify where the features you want your workloads to be. So it's working for GPUs, but they're in Spark 3.1, it's going to be also available, if I'm not saying any stupid things, on FGPA as well. So it's really it's really a very interesting piece of software, bringing back the abstraction. It's a kind of Spark was designed a bit of abstraction, but it just brings it back. I think it's to the executor. I think it's great. Do you think it's already a good time to start migrating to 4 to 3? I think it's not a good time to migrate. They already announced that they're working on 3.01, and you know the saying, okay, never update to a .0 version, but you should try now. You should try your workload in that. If you've got production, I would not go to production right now with 3.0. I think that would be optimistic. We use Spark way work, and we are not. I don't think we're ready for that yet. Yeah, Spark streaming has also been improved quite a bit, and there's a rules section. Aravind, you're going to think that I'm going to bail on all your questions. The UI for Spark streaming has been a lot improved, so you can debug more easily what's going on when you're doing structured streaming, and that's really with structured streaming. Okay. So there's two ways of doing streaming in Spark. One is called discrete streaming, and the other one is structured streaming. That the first one is completely dropped now. Yep, I think I've answered all of them. Okay.
Cool.
Did I miss any? I think we are all done.
Nice.
Yeah. I just see a question from Marianne. When you speak of ecosystem, can big data be considering into ecosystems like water-based animals versus land-based? So on this one, yeah, I think what I consider an ecosystem in IT is really about it's really about components that live well together. Okay, like when you compare to a living ecosystem where you've got, well, okay, it's not always they live all together, but they have a purpose together. Okay, even if some eats the other ones, but I think here it's more like they are living together to provide more value. Okay, so like 1 + 1 = 3, rather than just 1 + 1 equals basically 2. Yeah, so just quickly, I think, and then I think we've got to wrap up as well. It's already 1:07. Yeah, Elastic support. So unfortunately, the driver that Elastic is providing, which is the Hadoop driver, is only using Scala 2.11, and it doesn't play well with Scala 2.12. So, Arvin, here's your one of the reasons I don't like Scala. And Elastic needs to update this, and they have not done it. Okay, and because they have not done it, well, then you're in bad luck. And I'm in bad luck because there's a lot of project I'm working on where Elastic has a role, and that's actually penalizing me to go to Spark 3 for those projects. So, yep, we've got to wait and pressure a little bit those friends at Elastic to do something. Are we done?
I think so. Sure. Okay. So, Jean-Georges, I have a favor. How can people contact you if they want to follow up with you after this event? Obviously, your website. I think you posted the URL to your personal website before. If you would post that again, and I'm assuming people can contact you directly via Twitter or through your website, correct?
Yeah, correct. So jdp.ai, you've got a contact form. That's so jgp, my initials.ai, and my Twitter is jgperrin. Okay, jgprrin. And that's probably the best way. Some people like to find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't accept all requests. So if you just and especially since I've joined a Fortune 500 company, you would be surprised by how many spam I get on LinkedIn. So I don't accept all invitation. But if you just say, "Hey, I was in Todd ATO's talk and I've got a few questions," that's just great. I'll be more than happy to also link there. So
that's great. A favor, put your email address in the chat stream. If that's okay. And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Jean-Georges. I know. Apologies. But
who's using email? I just did it.
Very, very good. Thank you. So just a couple things as we wrap up. I wish we had more time for questions because I did see, I think, a couple more come in. But if you do have follow-up questions and everything like that, feel free to reach out to Jean-Georges directly. Also, this talk is a preview of the talk that you'll deliver at All Things Open this year, which will be an extended version of this, right? What you're going to do at ATO is going to be kind of a workshop extended version of this talk. So if you enjoyed this talk and you want more of it, but just literally more of it, and you want to do a deeper dive and maybe some more hands-on stuff, join us again in October for the conference.
Yeah, and that's going to be a challenge because I have absolutely no clue how we're going to do that hands-on. But it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So big data hands-on with Spark. Yeah.
Very cool. And I, by the way, I put several links in the chat stream today for you to 2020allthingsopen.org. That's to the conference. Of note, there's a free registration option this year. We've never done that before. So this year it is free to register. There are 4 total registration options. The second one is just a community supporter. Third option when you register is kind of a VIP option with swag, with a shirt, or you can get a hat specific to the conference this year. So anyway, again, in chat, if you're interested in registering for ATO, please do so. You can do so for free, and there are some other options there as well for you. I did put links to sponsors in the chat stream as well, and I would encourage you to check them out also. And if you have any questions or if you need any additional information or details, don't hesitate to reach out to us directly. And I'm going to put, finally, our direct email, and it's just info@allthingsopen.org. And right there it is. I just put it in the chat stream. Check that out. You can reach us directly with questions. And we are going to do some giveaways today. We are doing giveaways. I have already in the chat stream put the URL out to a WooFoo form. And if you're interested in receiving a book, a signed physical book, I think we've got 4 to give away today.
And I'm adding an extra one as well. So.
Oh, very nice. So 5. Cool. We'll kind of round it up to 5. And then if you're interested in a hat or a shirt, which I'm wearing both today, please indicate that in the form. We'll go through all the submissions and responses, and we'll get back to you quickly. But I've got 111. So we went about, 70 minutes or so. We went over just a little bit. We always want to respect your time, so I apologize for going over. Again, user error, technical difficulties on extending permission to Jean-Georges to share a screen. That was on me. 100% guilty there. and that was totally my fault. We won't do that again. We won't have that. We'll have that figured out beforehand. But anyway, thank you for joining. I know people are joining us from all over the globe today, so thank you. If you need us for any reason, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you directly. And Georges, thank you again. Thank you. Great job.
Bye.
Amazing job. So we're going to wrap this up, and thank you all for joining us today. So talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.